It was a good plan. It was the right plan for the organization. However, it was hard. It was hard for the accounting department. It was hard for the work comp group. It was hard for human resources. It was hard because we didn't understand from the beginning how it would impact all these little parts and pieces and the people, the hours they had to work, the processes they had to build.
This is the Pass the Pitch podcast with Anna Frazzetto. Each episode, we sit down with bold thinkers and industry trailblazers to uncover the strategies, stories, and sparks of inspiration that drive growth and transformation. Let's get started.
Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to start season 2 of my podcast, Pass the Pitch, today with a good friend and a colleague, Beth Erwin. Beth launched her company, Bestaff, almost 3 years ago, and she is the CEO and founder. She's also a fellow co-author of the book, Together We Rise. And I met Beth during COVID when we all decided to write a book together, because of course that's what you do during COVID, is just write a book. And we hit it off immediately. And shall I share with the audience that you are a fellow rigatoni?
Absolutely, Anna.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Very, very excited. Excited to see you and excited to have a great conversation about leadership.
Excellent. So why don't we just jump right in? Actually, when I was thinking about what we were going to talk about, and you mentioned leadership, what's the most unexpected leadership lesson that you've learned? And how has it shaped the way you guide your team or organization today?
Yeah. So the most, right? There's so many unexpected leadership lessons you learn over and over. I would say the most unexpected one was the realization that change that's always good for the organization may not always be the best thing for the organization. And it sounds contradictory, but let me explain just a little bit. Putting together a solid strategic plan when you're going to implement any sort of change in an organization is important, of course. But thinking through how it's going to impact not just your part of the group, but how it's going to impact all the different parts of the organization and the people that work in those parts is key. Many years ago, when I started with a company and as the VP of sales, came in and was launching my sales plan, right? Because you come in, and even when you interview, right, you have to come in with, here's what my plan's going to be. So I came in, launched my sales plan. It was a good plan. It was the right plan for the organization. However, it was hard. It was hard for the accounting department. It was hard for the work comp group. It was hard for human resources. And it wasn't hard because it was the wrong thing for the company, but it was hard because we didn't understand from the beginning how it would impact all these little parts and pieces and the people, the hours they had to work, the processes they had to build. So now after going through that and living, and it ended up okay, the company grew and we had a lot of success from it. But after that, we would bring in, even if it was something the accounting department wanted to do in the organization to change, we would have monthly meetings where I had a representative from accounting, a rep from human resources, a rep from safety, somebody from the field sitting there, someone from sales, someone from marketing. And each group, if they were wanting to implement a change, they would honestly present it to the group, and then everyone could talk and discuss how's that going to impact their section of the organization. And it really helped us build a much more cohesive, easier to implement, and easier for the company to adopt going forward. So I try to always do that now, just to think through. Even though Bestaff isn't, this huge conglomerate, it's still, you have to think about, how's it going to impact back office? How's this change going to impact that person? And I think that was probably very unexpected when I was in sales and in a silo, but it was meaningful and I took it forward.
All right. So Beth, you mentioned two things that I kind of want to pull out a little bit. One, you talked about like even during the interview process, how you have to come with a plan. So I just kind of want to make a mention of that. That is so hard for an individual. I've been in the same boat where I'm, like interviewing for a position. And the more senior the position, the more it's expected for you to come in with a plan. But what's so difficult about that is the fact that you don't know the organization yet. So you don't know what the impact is going to be on the other, functions of the company. So you're right. Like your history kind of teaches you what the right plan is and how to, like what the go to market strategy is going to be. How do you kind of rally up the troops or whatever? But then digging deeper, you need to kind of be in the company to be able to really kind of put forward the right plan. And the second part is I love the message of including all the functions. So like that, there's buy-in from everyone.
And I mean, I think we were a mid-sized company, so maybe it's easier in a mid-sized company, but I would think that's scalable, even in large organizations, to bring all the different parts and the people who have different viewpoints, um, not just to get their buy-in, but to find out, hey, where's the potholes? What are we going to step in? I mean, it's important. It is important.
Right. So you actually make me think of, when I used to work at, Spherion. So before Spherion, it used to be Interim, and Interim acquired a small company called Brandon Systems. And that was the company that I was in. But we were the technology arm for Spherion. And the one thing that used to be a common problem was sales was going out selling, right? And then let's face it, like if you're desperate to make your numbers, you're going to sell anything and everything, like what is going to get you in the door with the client. And then delivery, either recruitment or our operations team would get frustrated because they would say, "Oh my goodness, we can't do that. Like you're selling something we don't have the skill in finding those people or doing that SOW or whatever." And it was this constant battle back and forth until myself and my counterpart on the operations side, we came together and said, we need to include each other in the process. So like that, we don't have a disconnect. So like that recruitment is buying into the process from the beginning and not when it's already a done deal. So it's exactly what you're saying as far as get everybody to kind of buy in.
Right, right. So you were on the sales side. So you were out there selling the stuff they couldn't fill.
Yes, yes.
I'm teasing. I'm teasing. I'm teasing.
Yes, I was part of the problem. No,
Yeah.
in all
No,
reality,
you were the solution. You were the solution.
in all reality, I wound up, then as I got promoted, operations fell under my remit. So that's when I became ultra sensitive to
Yes.
what are the salespeople doing? Right. Exactly.
Yeah. All of a sudden, it's super important. Yeah.
Exactly. So let's talk about adaptability in business. These economic times have been a challenge for every industry sector out there. And so, what's the one time you or your team had to pivot quickly and it made making that shift was successful or not successful? So, what's your advice to be able to kind of thrive during these unpredictable times?
Um, eh, that's a great question. It seems like it's been unpredictable for a really long time. I mean, has it ever been predictable? I mean, now it is more volatile at certain times than others, but the last, what, 4 or 5 years has just been crazy. And pivoting is, is hard in the middle of, unpredictability, because you become very, gun shy almost. And what move should I make? How can we go? But I would say during the COVID was probably when we pivoted the most, And it was analyzing the business to the nth degree and saying, what do we do today? And I think we were successful in looking at the different lines of business and really understanding holistically how is the economy doing, what industries are doing well, how can we pivot to that now? And I think, during COVID, that was one way to make our lives a little bit smoother and more predictable and successful. Um, but other times, I think that's applicable throughout, even in good times, you still need to be looking, even if business is going well, you still need to be looking at what do I have a good diversified book of business? Am I moving in the right direction? I mean, and you were leading teams through COVID. How did you pivot?
Yeah, and I mean, I'll tell you, that was such a tough period of time. I worked, at Harvey Nash while COVID was going on, and I'll never forget the conversations that we were having, leadership conversations, because nobody knew how long this was going to take, right? Like we had are we talking about a 3-month issue, or are we talking about a multi-year issue? And when anybody suggested that this could go on for more than a year, we were like, you got to be, no way this is going to go on that long. Um, Tough conversations as far as looking at, do we furlough staff? Our first move was reduction in salaries for senior leadership to kind of carry us forward. But it was hard. I'm not sure anybody really pivoted that great, right? It was a little bit of survival mode. So I think Harvey Nash did a great job at the time, but I think they were in the same boat as every other company that I saw what they were going through. So I'll never forget those tough conversations, though, as far as furloughing staff or, getting to that point and then not being able to answer the question when the teams would ask, are there any more cuts?
Right.
We have no idea, because it wasn't like it was a company financial situation that you were dealing with. We were navigating the unknown just like everybody else was. So I would say that was probably the hardest. And I'm not sure anybody really did a great job at pivoting through that time period. Um, but what about like pivoting if you have like a service offering that's not working and saying, okay, let's cut the cord and let's not do this. Like I've experienced that. And the sooner you cut the cord, the better it is usually.
And I think every business goes through that, and not just a line of business, but opening a branch somewhere. If there's a market that's failing, or even a new offering, not necessarily a line of business, but a new service offering. And yes, those are very hard decisions and hard conversations to make. But to your point, it's always good to make that decision as soon as you know it. You know it in your gut, right? My husband and co-founder works with me in Bestaff. He says that all the time. As soon as you know, act. As soon as you know, act. And then he'll start telling me all the times he didn't and what happened. So it's true.
Oh my goodness, follow your gut. You're absolutely right. It's almost like the universe is telling you, before you even can make the decision to say like, no, like this is it. The one thing that I will say when we talk about adaptability, what was a hard transition was salespeople trying to sell during COVID, all virtual, and you're not in person anymore. And that was, I mean, I had lots of salespeople literally depressed in the fact that they couldn't leave their homes and they actually became crippled, and it crippled in thought and being able to connect with people. And that was difficult to try to get people to, get motivated and find different ways to establish connection with your clients.
Yeah. And they did. And we became virtual. Look at us now.
I know.
Look at us now on a podcast. That would have not happened 5, 6, 7 years ago, right? Now, since COVID, this is reality. So, and it's good. It's all good.
It is. It is. So, okay. So let me ask you, let's kind of shift the conversation a little bit and talk about, personal branding and authenticity. How do you balance staying authentic while building your personal or organizational brand? And you had to go through when you launched your company 3 years ago. What's one thing you think people get wrong about this?
It's a struggle for me. It is a struggle for me. One thing I think people get wrong is using the same format as everyone else is out on LinkedIn or out in social media, because it becomes, I think the consumer, the person looking at it is numb to it, starts to get numb to it. And maybe that's not a popular thing to say, but there are certain um, tools and tricks of the trade that are out there, and a lot of people are following the same exact format. So I think that's a mistake that's being made right now. I think we need to look at it with fresh eyes. But it certainly is not something that I think I do well with. I've found out since launching the business that apparently I'm a very private person, and I did not realize how private I was until I had the challenge in front of me to try to create a personal brand. And apparently I'm very private. We were at one of the conferences, and this gentleman came up who I felt like I knew, was an acquaintance, but I felt like he knew me. And he said, "Yeah, Beth, you're the strong, silent type." And I thought, are we talking about the same person? Because I don't feel like I'm a strong, silent leader, right? I think I'm a vocal leader, a very outgoing leader. And so that was just the big red flag that, Beth, you're not doing a good job with your personal branding. If someone that you feel is an acquaintance that knows you and knows who you are and how you lead and what your reputation has been within the industry, if that's his perception of you, then, and that's not how I see myself, I need to do a better job. So it's something I work on, but I think it's following the same pattern as everyone else is a mistake. So I'm still figuring it out myself. How do you? I mean, what do you think um, about building your personal brand? Because I think you do a fantastic job. Like, when did you start? Did it start when you were with a larger organization, or are you just jumping into it?
So that's interesting, because actually I would probably give credit to ClearEdge, because when I worked at Harvey Nash, and we were trying to build the Harvey Nash brand in the US, because Harvey Nash was really popular in Europe, and the US would be like, "Oh wow, really? You're here?" Like they didn't know who we were. And ClearEdge came up with the concept saying you need to have some thought leadership, and you need to have some SME, presence, so that people will gravitate. So what happened, since I had the technical background and we were an IT staffing company, and I also ran the solution side of the house, it kind of made sense that I would become the voice associated with, Harvey Nash and tech and thought leadership and have you. So it really wasn't so much personal brand as much it was the branding of Harvey Nash. But then my voice became synonymous with Harvey Nash. And then, when I left Harvey Nash and, went on to other places in my career, I just continued that branding methodology of creating thought leadership for your customers and your clients. I do agree with you. It's become too cookie cutter, and I see it. And I don't think that that's authentic at all, right? So how do you truly make it authentic? I think it depends on the company that you are representing, and also, the message that the company wants to, put forward, right? So, and that becomes the branding initiative around that. And, and staying staying current, LinkedIn obviously is the platform for, for companies and organizations, but there's different, you see a lot of my posts there. It's just me, right? Like I haven't done anything, fancy, but it's a way of kind of keeping your name, out there, from a company perspective.
Yeah. And I need to do a better job. I need to write that down. For sure. For sure.
Oh my God, this is so funny. Okay, so let's talk about customer experience and relationships, right? So, I mean, it's all about relationships. What's
Mhm.
your secret sauce for creating unforgettable customer experience, especially when there's so much competition out there, right? How do you stand out? And can
Oh
you
my gosh.
share a time when going above and beyond really made all the difference, and the client is always going to say, I only want to work with Beth.
I tell you what, my attitude and my approach has completely changed in starting Bestaff. And I say all the time, so if any of my old RVPs might be listening, I say all the time, if my old RVPs could hear what I'm doing now, they would be so mad because there are things that I would say we can't do, right? In a Our high touch customer service is probably follows right along when we founded the company. Like the very first line, the very first paragraph in our business plan was about delivering this high touch customer service. And that's how we're going to win business. That's how we're going to deliver, because in light industrial staffing, which is mostly what our line of business is a customer needs the people, the number of people that they need at the time that they need for the length of period of time, right? They need the right talent on time all the time. And being able to deliver high touch and being there has been a game changer for us. Um, but saying that, it's probably easier um, as an owner operator to be able to make quick decisions and deliver very rapidly for our client. Um, Probably very different than a branch manager who has to go through chain of command to be able to make those decisions and be present. It's been important for us to layer in technology for efficiency. And I know everybody talks about AI, and it does make a difference. It's a game changer. And it allows you to be able to have that branch manager to be physically present, to be able to have the high touch with your customer. And it's really has been a game changer. We were out um, doing Christmas deliveries because it's the holiday season. Walked into one of our clients and, he said, here's a competitors in the market, Beth. And I said, well, that makes us all, our level of customer service just rises, right, with competition. And I welcome competition. And so it was a great conversation. He said, well, I'm only doing business with you because my business is with you. And so that always warms my heart. And it does make a difference. So it's that for us, the size of organization we're able to do that. But I think it's important to figure out how to layer that in regardless of the size of the organization. And I know companies do it well, layering in the AI so the recruiters can be personable when they need to and remove the busy work. So I think that's what's made a difference. I know that's what's made a difference for us.
Right. High touch. Absolutely. I used to have a CEO that I reported into that would always say, quality over quantity. Right. So don't focus on, like, gee, I have 100 people on billing, but meanwhile you have, 50 clients that are upset. Like, focus on the quality that you're delivering. And that's true. And that's how you distinguish yourself from competition. I couldn't agree with you more. That's a
Mhm.
valuable lesson. And sometimes we have to teach people to be patient, that that's the way that it works. All right, Beth, let's have a little bit of fun now. Okay. So I'm going to totally surprise you here. I'm going to do some rapid fire questions, a little of, yeah, a little bit of fun.
Great.
Yeah, exactly. So what's one small habit or routine that keeps you grounded during a chaotic week?
I get up every morning at 6 a.m. and read a devotional, and I read the Bible.
Oh my goodness, I love that. Okay. If you could teleport to one place for a quick brainstorming session, where would it be?
That's a good one. My best brainstorming sessions were with the owner of a company that I used to work for, and I valued those and I miss them. Um, he was great at brainstorming, and I really valued it. Yeah, if I could go back there, I would.
Okay. And if you had to name your personal business anthem, what would it be?
Business anthem. I say every day, probably 100 times, let's rock and roll. Rock and roll.
That is great. Okay. What's the quirkiest productivity hack you swear by?
Am I productive? I my one thing that keeps me focused is I drive a lot, and in driving, I drive in silence, and it gives me that time to think and to reset instead of busy, listening to music, or sometimes that relaxes other people. For me, it's just silence where I can think through things and be more meditative.
Oh, that's great. I,
Mhm.
I should try that because usually I'm the one that has the music blasting
Yeah.
in the car all the time. All right. So describe your leadership style in 3 emojis and explain them.
3 emojis. Probably the little dancing lady and man. I send those a lot, right? Because we're always celebrating. So I would say dancing emojis, the laughing emoji, because I don't take myself too seriously. And what's another one? I'm thinking of ones that I use instead of ones that I maybe talk about my leadership. I'm always doing the one that's like the straight, like always, right? So that would probably be mine. I'm dancing, I'm laughing, and I'm all the time.
Oh my goodness, Beth, this is fantastic. I'll tell you, thank you so much. I can't wait for this to air, and it was absolutely a pleasure to have you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anna. It's so great to see you.
Thanks for listening to the Pass the Pitch podcast with Anna Frazzetto. Don't forget to subscribe and share. In our next episode, we talk to Susan Donahoe about lifting women in STEM staffing and leading by putting your team first. See you then.